Hello, Dave. Can you hear us?
Yeah, it's quite good.
Hello, David. My name is Vitaly. I am the English teacher of these nice kids. Yes, and we all together made those videos to you. So I have been trying to get here all those kids who you've been able to see in our video. So hello again.
Well, it was a great video. I loved the video. It was really nice.
Thank you.
You have some really good questions. So I want you to ask all of your questions. There were a lot of questions, but they're all good. How shall we do this? Do you want to ask me a question and then I'll answer?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Who will be the first one?
I can do first.
Yeah, I think Father Christmas should be the first person to
Okay, I want to ask you, do you know any of Russian or Ukrainian words?
Really, honestly, no.
Of course.
I mean, actually, I think I know the word for beer. Yeah? Pivo?
Yeah!
Nice.
I know how to say spasiba, do svidaniya. What I don't know is how different Russian and Ukrainian is. Is it very, very different?
Yeah.
Actually, at the end of this session, I want you to recommend a good writer, a Ukrainian writer, like, for example, a novel that I should read. Obviously in English. So afterwards, have a think, and then afterwards you tell me. But yeah, no, I don't know much Russian. Actually, you said Меня зовут Dave.
Yes.
But I need to practice some Ukrainian. Okay, more questions. Don't be shy.
Alright, David, I'd like to ask one.
Okay.
So in the future, I'd like to be an animator, and as an animator, you always have to write scripts and stories for your things. So, and you, as a book writer, I'd like to ask you, what actually inspired you to write those books? Like, did you come up with the idea yourself, or did you have some friends helping you?
No, I mean, it's all me, but the thing is that I've been writing books for a long time. Would you like to see my very first book? The first book that
Yes! Yes.
This cover, it's a nice cover, it's a very Spanish cover. And this was 1995, so a long time ago. In fact, probably you weren't born. When were you born?
2003.
Then this book is older than you, okay? Yeah, I don't know. I started writing because I'm a teacher. I mean, if you want to write a book like Gateway, first you have to be a teacher. You have to understand teaching. And in fact, I don't know if you know, but I still teach every day. That's why I couldn't do this meeting before, because every morning I'm in the classroom with students exactly the same as you, except they're Spanish. But yeah, so I mean, writing a book, maybe writing a book is not the same as writing a novel. You know, it's not really just inspiration, it's like methodology. You have to understand sort of how to present grammar, how to present vocabulary, and then also to write interesting texts. But you know, I'm quite happy with the scripts for the videos because I had never done that before. That was the first time. And also, you know, we don't have lots and lots of money. You know, if you have lots of money to make a video, it's quite easy. But when you have limited money, it's quite difficult. So I'm quite happy. But yeah, but it's good. If you want to write, the important thing is to practice writing. Just begin and write what you like. Good luck. More questions?
Do you have any hobbies?
Hobbies?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I do like reading. I read a lot. Actually, I even like, somebody asked me, I think, about manga or anime, and in fact, I'm too old for manga and anime. But I do like comics. Look, do you want to see? This is next to me every day when I'm writing. Look, who's this?
Spider-Man!
This statue is next to me, okay? So in fact, I read comics. I'm very old, but I still read comics. I enjoy reading comics to relax. And then really music. I mean, you cannot see, but behind there is probably the biggest collection of records you've ever seen. I don't know if you can see it. Look, can you see? Every one of those is a CD. I have the biggest collection of CDs outside of a record shop. So I love music, yeah, I love music.
What kind of music do you prefer?
It's a good question. I like everything, but it is interesting. I was going to say, when I'm writing, I can never listen to music with words. So I listen to instrumental music, I listen to classical, jazz, electronic music. But if it's got words, I can't concentrate. But I do like a lot of rock music, and in fact my family, my 2 children, they're a little bit older than you, but we all love music, and we often go to festivals. There's a great festival this year in Madrid every summer with big groups. This year, do you know Smashing Pumpkins? Do you know those?
No.
No, really.
They're a good group. They're a bit like sort of Nirvana, sort of people like that. But yeah, I like everything.
Have you ever listened to Russian music?
Well, funny, at the moment, I'm listening to a lot of, I don't know how to pronounce the name, but it's film music from 1950s, 60s. I think his name is Mikhail Tariverdiev. Does that sound familiar? He writes film music. Tariverdiev, but it's very good, it's beautiful, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't, and I've listened to a lot of Russian classical music, but I don't know any modern music. Is there somebody I should listen to?
No.
Why not?
More like into modern stuff.
Like who?
Like modern stuff, modern music, like indie music.
Right. But is there stuff, for example, from Ukraine like that, or not really?
No, I mostly listen to like more like American music, English music.
Yeah.
From Ukraine.
And the same happens to me in Spain. I never listen to Spanish rock music because it sounds just like bad English music.
But in Ukraine we have good groups like Kaska and others who write quite beautiful groups. Beautiful
What is it like?
Kaska. Sky. Or Sky.
You have to tell me the names and send them to me.
Sky.
So that I can listen.
You can start with him.
More questions?
How did you decide to become a writer?
I think I always wanted to be a writer. I always liked the idea of writing. But it was really, I was lucky because I was teaching in a very good school, and my publisher came to me and they asked me if I would like to write. Because I was also doing a lot of training teachers. So I teach students, I also teach teachers. And somebody saw me giving a talk, talking about teaching English, and they asked me if I wanted to write. So that was really nice. And that was when I wrote this book, Teamwork. And I was lucky because this book sold lots and lots and lots of copies. At the moment in my life, I have sold 7 million books, which is not bad.
It's great.
Have you studied good at school?
Have I studied what?
Good at school. Good at school. Have you studied good? Have you got good grades at school?
Sorry, I'm lost.
Did you have good grades?
Did you have good grades at school? Did
Which
you?
school? Okay, sorry. I thought you were saying it was the name of a school. Your question is, did I get good grades at school?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, I did actually. You know what? I think, because I think somebody asked me, I don't know, it was something about becoming famous or something. When I was at school, I was not the best student, but I worked hard. And I think actually, there is a famous quote which is that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I don't know if you understood that, but it means basically, you can be very, very brilliant, but if you don't work hard, then, you're not going to get good results. And I honestly think that I just did work quite hard. And I went, in fact, to Oxford University, which I had to pass an exam. And I did very well in Oxford, too. In fact, do you know Oxford? Oxford is made of lots of different colleges.
Yeah.
And the college that I went to is called Queen's College. And in fact, it's the college where Mr. Bean went to.
Yeah.
Atkinson
From a comedy series.
And although he looks very stupid, he's very, very clever. Very clever. Yeah, so I did get quite good grades. I think you can always achieve lots of great things when you work hard. I know teachers, we always say this, and your parents say this, but I think it's true. When you work hard, you can do anything. You can become an animator, you can become... I think the important thing is to know what you want to do.
Yeah.
You said that during work you couldn't listen music with words. So I have a question. What inspired you to do everyday job?
You know what? I think the problem is the further away you are from the computer, the more difficult it is to hear the sound.
You said that you couldn't... What inspired you to do everyday job?
To do my teaching job or my writing job?
Your writing job and also teaching.
Just everyday stuff.
What inspired me?
Yeah.
Well, when I was at university, I had 1 year where I came to Spain and I started teaching, and I just enjoyed teaching. I just liked teaching, and I enjoyed being with people and feeling that you're helping people to learn something. And I think really the inspiration is just when you see that people like what you do. I think that's the best feeling, And I think I'm lucky because, like I say, I think writing is a very difficult job. It's funny because at the moment I'm writing. Would you like to see my new book?
Yes.
You can't really see anything, but this is it. It's exciting, okay? But this is a whole new book, okay? And nobody has seen this in the world at the moment. But it takes, to write this, takes a long time, okay? And also when you're writing, you spend a lot of time on your own, and it's pretty boring. You have to be very disciplined. Actually, the most difficult thing about writing, I think somebody asked me this question, the most difficult thing about writing is that I have to write for a particular day. It's not like I go for a walk until I find inspiration. Maybe I write my book in 6 years. I have like a certain amount of time and I have to write my book in that time. And that's the difficult thing. You have to write quickly.
Spencer, I'd like to ask you, so in Gateway 2 we have learned a lot of categories such as reading, writing, use of English, like listening. And I'd just like to ask you, which category is actually your favorite? Which one do you think is the most important one?
Well, it's different. If it's for you to study or for me to write, if it's for you to study, I don't know. I still think that grammar and vocabulary are the structure of a language. If I want to study Ukrainian, I would need to know vocabulary and I'd need to know some of the grammar. So I think that's maybe the most important thing for you to study, particularly at the beginning. Then it depends also if, in the future you think you're going to be doing more speaking in a job or if you're going to be writing. The one that I like writing most is probably the reading texts, because I learn a lot. I always try to find texts that are quite interesting. And for example, in my new book, I'm quite excited because I think there are some texts that students will enjoy and teachers will enjoy. And that's the nicest part when I write, when you find a good text and you think, yes, people are going to like it. People are going to find this interesting. But when I write those texts, I do learn a lot. I'm full of useless information.
Was it hard to get in Oxford University? Because we have said that it's very hard and we don't know exactly.
Yeah, you have to do a special exam, you have to do an interview, and I think when I was a boy I was very, very shy. Not like now, but when I was a boy I was shy, so maybe the interview, I don't know if I did it well or not. I'm quite surprised that they accepted me. But yeah, it isn't easy, and sometimes the atmosphere in Oxford is not very good because it's a little bit competitive. Some people try to be too clever, but I think you just do what you can and remain sensible.
And now, which university do you think is the most prestigious in the world?
Sorry?
Which university do you think is the most prestigious?
In England, in the UK, I mean, it's always Oxford and Cambridge are the ones that have the best reputation. I think it's true that they are a little bit traditional. So, in fact, if you want to study, for example, both of my son and my daughter study in the UK, and they study in modern universities. My son is studying electronic engineering, and he's at a different place, which is very, very good for modern technology. So I think Oxford and Cambridge have a little bit of a reputation for being traditional. For example, at Oxford I studied French and Spanish, but in fact nearly everything I did was literature. If you went to a different university, you would probably be doing more practical, more modern things. So it depends. But there are lots of good universities in the UK. Would anybody like to study in the UK at university?
Yes.
Yes.
It has really good education.
Yeah, it's. Is it very difficult to study from the Ukraine to go to the UK?
It's
Not really
much.
It depends on the subject you learn.
It's very expensive.
Right.
It's expensive.
It's expensive too, no? Because obviously being outside of Europe, because in Europe, you know that the system in England is that you don't pay, that they lend you the money, and then you pay the money back when you start to work. But if you're outside Europe, it is much more complicated or much more expensive.
I know the Spanish people are keen on football, so I want to ask you, do you like football?
Right, that was a good question. I remember somebody asked me about football. Okay, look, do you want me? I'm going to show you a football shirt. Okay, you have to tell me which team it is. Okay, you ready? Right, what team is this?
So, Ukrainian national team is your favorite team, yes?
So, for example, it is true when I travel, I like to buy football shirts. I used to buy them for my son, now that I buy them for myself. But I have shirts from all around the world. But now I'm going to show you my favorite football shirts, okay? This is really close to my heart, okay? This is my, what team is this then?
Liverpool! Oh, you'll never walk alone!
I always wear this also, which is, this is Liverpool as well.
Yeah,
I'm a very big Liverpool fan. I was born in Liverpool, and my mum, my father, they still live in Liverpool. So I always feel very strong, not just the football, but I feel very emotional when I see Liverpool because it reminds me of my when I was a boy. I lived there. And at the moment, of course, we are #1 in the league.
Yes, Liverpool destroyed Manchester United last weekend. Yes, so Shaqiri scored 2 goals.
I can tell you some news which has just appeared in England. Did you know that Mourinho
Was sacked, yes.
He's just lost his job, yeah.
Yes.
Because of Liverpool.
Bye-bye.
But Kiev was unlucky for Liverpool, of course. Yeah, when we lost the final last year.
Yes. Sergio Ramos broke Salah's arm. Yes.
So, judo, karate, not football.
Why did you choose Spain for your teaching?
Why did I go to Spain?
Yeah.
Right, well, I studied French and Spanish at university, like I said. And the 3rd year at university was traveling to, I could go to France or Spain, and my French was much better than my Spanish. So I came to Spain to teach, but also to practice my Spanish. And then, do you know what?
Oh,
What?
something was the connection.
What happened? I fell in love.
It was a pause.
I stayed in Spain because my wife is Spanish.
So you know only two languages, English and Spanish, or you know something else?
French.
But actually, Spain is a very...
How many languages do you
Sorry?
know? How many languages do you know?
Well, I can speak English. My English. That's one. My Spanish is also pretty good. That's two. And my French is still okay. I can read easily in French. If I needed to speak, I would need a week to get back, but my French is good too. The problem is that because I can speak some languages, when I travel, I always feel very embarrassed that I can't speak your language. I mean, I have traveled with Gateway, I've traveled to 28 different countries, and I can't say, I get very embarrassed because I can't say much in each language. So in the end, I stopped trying, and I help people to practice their English.
When you have been
So I
in
speak
our
English, but yeah, I like.
when you have been in our country,
Yeah, go ahead.
which place in Kiev did you enjoy being at the most? Like, which one was your top favorite?
Well, I've been, like, I think 3-4 times, and it's funny because I've been in the winter and I've been in the summer, and I was very surprised about how hot it is in the summer.
And how cold it is in winter, yeah.
It's quite hot in Kiev. In fact, I went to a place that I remember still. Is it called the Hydro Park?
Oh, yeah.
Horrible place.
So there are lots of people around that area, yeah? It's very popular in the summer.
Yes. A lot of people go there and have fun.
A little island, maybe. Is there an island in the middle of the river?
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember walking around that area and really just like relaxing in that area, because obviously when I come, I'm usually very busy. I'm usually talking to teachers, maybe visiting schools, so I don't get much free time. But of course, the area with the monastery is very beautiful. I've been there a few times. And I've taken a lot of photographs in Kiev. Sometimes because I don't have much time, I take lots and lots of photographs. If you like, I'll send your teacher some of my photographs in Kiev. You can see that I was there.
Yes. Have you tried out some Ukrainian dishes, like traditional foods?
I love eating, and I love eating food when I travel. So yeah, I do like Ukrainian food. It's a little bit similar. Also, some things are similar to Russian food. And the dumplings are always very good.
Can you pronounce borscht?
Can you pronounce borscht?
Yeah.
Spain, I'm too fat.
Could you pronounce the word borscht? Borscht.
Sorry?
Could you pronounce the word borscht?
Well, I said borscht. It's more or less, no?
Yeah, it's good.
So you have been to Ukraine 3 times. So do you like traveling?
Do I like traveling? Yeah, I do. Like I say, the problem with my job is that at the moment I can't travel, so I'm spending 2 years when I can't travel. But then suddenly I spend 2 years traveling around the world. And it's good, but I would like it if it was a mixture, so that I'm writing sometimes, and then I can go for a trip, and then write some more and go for a trip. Because when you're traveling for 1 year, it's quite tiring. 1 year I did something really stupid. I went from Spain to Russia to give talks. I went to St. Petersburg, Moscow, and then Novosibirsk in Siberia. Then I came back to Spain, and then 2 days later I went to Mexico. And like, I was going from one side of the world to the other, and like, I just couldn't sleep. You know, jet lag? People talk about jet lag, but I just couldn't sleep. It was, I felt ill. So it's not a good idea to travel too much.
So how many times have you been abroad?
Abroad? Well, I mean, like I say, I've visited, I think in my life, I've visited probably 34, 35 countries. I don't know Asia. Asia is one place that I've never been to. But I know very well, for example, I've been to different places in Ukraine, to different places in Russia, Georgia, Turkey, Mexico, Peru, Brazil. So yeah, I've traveled a lot.
Do you know something about educational system in Ukraine?
Yeah, I mean, I know a little bit about it. I have visited a few schools in Ukraine. In fact, I did visit a school where we did something similar to this, but I was in the school where people asked me questions. So I know a little bit. I've never been to your school, but I can't remember. I did visit a school in central Kiev once.
Which one?
Can't remember. The person can't remember. Which one?
Somebody from Macmillan.
Will you come to us next year? Will you come to us next year?
Next time I'm in Kiev, I'm going to try and come visit you.
Okay.
Have you ever been in America and United States, and what is your opinion about American pronunciation of the words?
American pronunciation?
Yes.
American accent.
I mean, I have no particular opinion. I mean, I don't think it's better or worse. I think that pronunciation, you know, different accents exist. I'm sure in Ukrainian, no? People maybe speak differently in Kiev and maybe, I don't know, Odessa or somewhere. I think the difference between American and British English is not really very, very big. Even in the UK, there are lots of very different, strong accents. But I do think that, you know, it's impossible to say that one is like good accent and one is not good. I mean, you know, if you're from New York, you will have a New York accent. If you're from Scotland, you'll have a Scottish accent. But I don't think, you know. Sometimes with my students, I have problems with spelling because some students spell like the American way, which is okay. But if you mix, if sometimes you spell in the American spelling and sometimes with British spelling, it's a bit confusing. You know, like the word colour in British is O-U-R at the end, but colour in American is O-R. So it's good to always spell the same way, either British or American.
Is it hard for you to understand Scottish accent?
Not now. Not after 30 years. You know, actually, that's one problem that teachers, we have, English teachers, because I'm sure this happens to your teacher here in your classroom, that, of course, you become very used to listening to English. For example, when I listen to English with a strong Spanish accent, I always understand. But maybe if I spoke to somebody speaking English with a strong Chinese accent, I wouldn't understand them. And it's good sometimes for us to remember that, you know, to try to speak as clearly as possible. Because teachers, we get used to, maybe your teacher gets used to you having a Ukrainian accent. So it's good to remember sometimes to work on particular sounds. What sounds do you think are difficult for you to make in English?
R.
Because you have a different type of
Because
yeah?
it's much stronger in Ukrainian, like it's
Yeah.
TH.
Okay. Why? Why is that?
Because we don't have it. We don't have such sound.
Right. Yeah, I mean, pronunciation, it is always worth practicing because it's one of those things that I think teachers, as I say, teachers, we get used to different accents, but when you go to the UK and you're speaking to people around the city, sometimes it's more difficult for them to understand. But I understand your accents perfectly. You speak very well.
Thank you.
Obviously got a good teacher, great teachers.
Have you ever been to Carpathian Mountains?
Have I been to where?
To Carpathian Mountains.
No, I don't think I have. Is it?
If you're going to go there, you will understand that some Ukrainian accents are very hard.
Really?
They're very different.
Okay. Is that like a beautiful part of the country?
Yes. Yeah, very beautiful.
David Spencer, have you ever seen some like modern movies? For example, for me, I really like watching English movies in their original language. And which one of your movies is your favorite? Like, which movie genre do you prefer?
Actually, I'm not such a movie fan. I'm more a fan of like reading than like watching films. I don't go to the cinema very often. And when I watch television or videos, I generally watch like comedy things that make me laugh. So I'm not really a good film expert. There is actually a film that's coming out at Christmas that I want to see, which is an action film. But it's called Mortal Engines. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the film probably looks like a typical American film. It's Peter Jackson. But in fact, I read those books a long time ago, and the books are very good. So I'm interested to see if the film is good. But it's, I think it's more like an action film, like a typical Christmas film.
And what do you use more, internet or TV?
For watching things, probably internet now. Yeah, I have like Netflix and HBO, typical, you know, everything is Netflix now. Actually, I like, for example, Game of Thrones. I like fantasy.
Who is your favorite author?
Favorite author? Well, actually, I don't know, like I do like fantasy. Has anybody ever heard of this book?
The Wind?
Yeah.
Все-таки литератора включили.
It's a fantasy book, but it's very good. It's like, it's very popular. And in fact, I think they're going to make a series and a film. But actually, I find fantasy sometimes quite relaxing. But I also like, for example, do you know James Joyce?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very difficult to read, but I do. It's one of those books, Ulysses, that I've read about 4 times, and it's like, I think it's a brilliant book, but it's not very relaxing. It's pretty hard to read.
Have you heard about the Witcher books by Andrzej Sapkowski?
I have, yeah, because he's from Poland, yeah?
Yes.
He's Polish.
And are you waiting for the Netflix adaptation of this book?
Ah, right, okay. Animation, did you say? Or
Netflix adaptation.
They're going to film a TV series based on the book.
Right, yes, I've read 1 or 2 of those, because I think it's interesting, you know, that he's very famous, but he's not from America or England, so I thought he must be good. But I think that's also because of the video game. Is that true? That the video game is very popular?
Yes.
Somebody asked me about video games, but I must admit I don't really play anything. So you're a big gamer, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you like Minecraft?
Do not. I really never play any video games, any. And I must tell you something interesting, because the first unit in my new book, I had to write a text about a good video game. And I spent a long time trying to find a good video game that is not, for example, violent or has a bad reputation or is for older people. And I found a really good game that looked actually interesting to me. And now I can't remember the name. Wait, I'm going to try and find it. It's a problem-solving game. Because the problem with Minecraft, from what people tell me, is that it's a little bit young, that most people who play are younger than you.
Yeah.
Much younger.
But some other old people actually do. There are some, you can like build stuff, share your creativity there, but yeah, mostly younger audiences.
I had something, and I see that some people play Minecraft even when they're like my age or older.
Yeah.
But in general, I think the average age is young, and people said that if I put that, it was going to look a little bit too childish. Oh, the name of the game is The Witness. Has anybody heard of that?
No. Not really.
It's like problem solving, so it's sort of not action.
Is it like a puzzle game?
Beautiful graphics. So the actual pictures are really beautiful. It's called The Witness, and apparently it's used in schools to teach like problem solving and maths, because I needed a game that was very educational. Actually, you know, one problem that I have writing books is that my books are sold in like, I don't know, 60 different countries. So when I choose something, it has to be something that is okay in lots of different countries. and also something that is not, for example, causing problems in different countries. My books sell in the Middle East, in countries like Dubai, and they have very strict ideas about what you can talk about, what you can't talk about. So in my books you will never see pork, because pork is not allowed in Islamic. So I can't talk about bacon. I can't talk about bacon and eggs in my books.
Do you like it?
Bacon and eggs is a good breakfast.
In your next book, in your Gateway 3, are you planning to add some units about different types of food? Are you gonna add like new things to them? Are you gonna add like new grammar or newer rules that are different from Gateway 2, for example?
Yeah, well, this is a secret. This is top secret. I can't really tell you.
Хочешь узнать, купи.
But yes, there is a little bit of difference, yes. I mean, there's a very big difference in nearly everything. I mean, obviously all of the texts are totally new. And there are a few little changes with grammar and also with vocabulary. But at the moment it's top secret, so I can't tell you. Don't tell anybody.
Okay.
Good. Somebody asked me what it's like being famous, okay? And I think the best thing about being famous is that somebody once made a coffee mug with my name on it. Look, isn't that great? I always wanted to have a coffee mug with my face on it. Look, great. Sometimes with my students, I try to sell them my mug.
Do people recognize you on streets?
Sorry?
Do people recognize you on streets?
No, I'm not really famous. I mean, I actually, sometimes some things have happened to me that have been very strange. Once I was in an airport in Mexico, and somebody came up to me and said, "Oh my God, you're David Spencer," and that was quite strange. Yeah, one reason why I am a little bit famous is because of the videos, of course. Because usually the people who write books, nobody knows who you are, and I have been in some very strange situations where people have recognized me because of the videos. In fact, once I went into a school here in Madrid with some children who were very small, like 11 and 12, and it was like Brad Pitt had arrived in their school. It was like, oh, he's the man from the video, wow. Yeah. So yeah, that's strange. But no, I'm not particularly, I do sign books, in fact, and in fact I've signed lots of books for teachers in Ukraine. If I come to your school, I'll sign your books, okay?
Yeah.
And have you ever tried to code? Do you like programming?
Have I tried what, sorry?
Have you ever tried to write code? Have you ever tried to program something?
I have never tried to write a quad. I have never. So I think you asked me also in the video about motorbikes. But I don't know. I don't travel in quads or motorbikes. I'm a bit boring. I like travel on the bus.
Do you try to write fiction books for your children?
That's a very good question. I always wanted to write a novel for like teenagers, but I'm so busy that I just don't have time. And I don't know now. I think I've written for so long that I think that when I finish writing books, I'm going to stop writing completely. But maybe, I don't know. I would like to write a novel one day, but I'm not sure. When I retire, when I'm living on an island by the sea and nothing to do, and I'm bored, then I'm going to write a novel.
Is it true that Spanish people are very loud?
Loud?
Yeah.
Are we loud? Is that
Spanish
English people have a reputation for being very polite and boring.
She's not talking
No,
about...
I'm talking about Spanish people.
Oh, Spanish people. Oh, Spanish people are loud. Yeah, Spanish people are loud. Yeah. Spain is a very loud country. Everybody shouts all the time. Shouting is just the normal way of having a conversation.
Have you heard of a book author, Stephen King, who writes horror novels?
Very famous, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've read really much, but his books often become films, yeah?
Yeah. Like the Shining movie and the It movie, it got like its own movies from the books.
Yeah, actually somebody also asked me in the video about scary films. No, I don't watch scary films either. The scariest film that I have seen is probably Bambi, or Dumbo, or The Lion King.
It's serious, but not so scary.
Question at the back.
David, do you miss England?
Yes, I do. I think now that I'm getting older, I miss it a little bit more. My parents are still alive. My mother is very old. She's 88. And I think I would like to be closer sometimes to see her, because I don't go back very often. So yeah, also the weather, everybody thinks the weather in Spain is great, but actually the weather in Madrid in the summer is not very good because it's too hot. It's probably a bit like Kiev, but drier, I think. So it becomes like 40 degrees and no breeze. And in fact, I prefer like the weather in the UK in summer. England is very, very green, and where I live is not green because it's too hot, too sunny. So yeah, I miss it a little bit.
Is it more like rainy in UK than here, for example? Where you are?
It's very wet. I mean, I think it's because it's an island, then it's, you know, the sea is everywhere, so it is very humid. Actually, what it is also where I live is I'm so far away from the sea. You know, Madrid, if you look at the map, it's like 400 kilometers to the nearest coast. And like I'm from Liverpool, which is next to the sea, and I miss, you know, it's nice sort of being close to the sea. But Kiev is not very close to the sea either, no?
Yeah.
But we have a big river.
Yeah, we have a big river.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you like when it's more rainy or when it's more sunny?
Like I say, I don't like the extreme heat here. For example, in August, like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, it's very hot. And 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, it's very hot. So for example, I like walking, but you can't really walk. Like at 11 o'clock in the morning, you can't walk in Madrid because it's just too hot. So if it's between that and rain, I think I prefer rain.
Have you ever think about returning to UK?
Sorry, am I thinking of returning?
Yes, to United Kingdom.
You know, I don't know. I'm at a moment in my life when both of my children are now studying in the UK too. So my wife and I, we live in Spain, and my children live in the UK, and my mum lives in the UK. So maybe, I think actually what I would like to do is to spend half of my time in Spain, half of my time in the UK. I think that would be perfect. I need to buy a house in England. That's my plan. Okay, well, has everybody asked me a question? Is there anybody who hasn't asked a question?
What's the main idea of your English training?
Louder.
Sorry?
What is the main idea of your English training from books?
English training?
Main idea of it.
So I'm not sure if I understood the question. So what's the main idea of like teaching English, training English?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's very difficult to say in like 1 minute or 2 minutes. But like I think I said before, what you need, I think, is when you're learning English, is to have like grammar. The problem with grammar sometimes is you're going and learning it year after year, but in each year in more detail. I personally think vocabulary is like really, really important because the more words you have, the more you can communicate. But then the other thing really is little by little, using the language to make sure you're doing things in English, which is why in Gateway there has to be a very strong structure. It has to be very clear that step by step you're getting better. So it's always making sure that the things that in Gateway, for example, we ask you to do are things that you can do and you can do well. I think it's important that you feel successful when you study a language. If you always find that you're finding everything very difficult, I think it's very demotivating. It's not good for your motivation. Can I ask you, what year are you studying in? Are you in your last year, your next to last year?
We're all different.
Yeah,
Different. Yeah.
Sorry?
We are all different. There's from
We are from different places.
Right, so ages then. Who is the youngest in this group?
Поднимите руки, кто самый младший.
Man's form, raise your hands.
Okay.
So here's
How
from
old are you?
9th to 11th form.
Right, okay. And the oldest? and so, but you're not in your last year?
Last. We
Last
have
year, no?
we have 11
And-
classes.
And so you're preparing for your final exam?
Yes. Yeah.
And
You-
graduation
Are
party.
you English?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
You should pass well, yeah?
Yes.
Good.
Your
What's the
books
most
help a lot.
thing that you have to study?
Huh?
What's going to be the most difficult exam?
Ukrainian,
Literature.
semantic, history.
All of them are difficult.
Chemistry, physics, biology, geography.
Maybe it is surprising, but they know English better than their native language.
Well, in some way it's true, yes.
So you're all going to get 10 in English?
The highest mark is 12, so they are going to have 12.
Good. In where I teach, the subject that everybody hates is history, because they have to study so much. It's just memorizing pages and pages and pages.
In Ukrainian is the same
The
thing.
same everywhere.
So, and what was your favorite lesson in your school? If you already mentioned this question, I want to ask you about your favorite lesson in school.
My favorite classes?
Yeah.
I always loved languages. So for me, for example, when I was studying in England, I always used to love French and Spanish. And in fact, I also studied Latin, which most people don't like studying. But I always enjoyed languages. But I think I enjoyed languages, maybe it's connected with traveling, because I remember when I had French, we had French books and French comics, and I always thought it was really exciting that I wanted to visit France and I wanted to visit Spain. In fact, how many of you have visited the UK? Has anybody been to the UK? Okay, cool. London?
Yeah. London and Oxford.
London and Cambridge.
Oxford.
Cambridge, yeah?
Yeah.
Good. And has anybody been to the US?
No.
Oh, right.
One green hand from the side, yes.
And Ireland? Has anybody been to Ireland?
No.
No. Okay. Good.
Nothing to see there.
Excuse me?
Did you like visiting the UK?
Yeah, very much.
In London,
Yeah.
my favorite place is Chinatown. Food there is
Wow.
delicious
Like
and
the other
spicy
one.
and
Well, actually, did you know that the videos that I made for Gateway were made very close to Chinatown? I made the videos in a special professional studio in Soho, which is quite close. Yeah, and it's a nice atmosphere around there. It's quite exciting. Yeah.
I was shocked because people in England were so polite. Are so polite.
Can you say that again?
I was shocked because people in England are so polite. They are not so emotional, but very sincere.
Yeah, it's funny because people sometimes think that English people are quite cold, but I don't think they're cold. I think it's just that the politeness is also a way of being friendly for us. I think, you know, we use sorry and thank you just because we want to be polite and nice to the other person. But I think that, you know, if you get to know English people, then usually they're pretty friendly. I mean, like in any country, you know, it depends, you know, what type of group of people you're with. But I think, for example, in the UK at university, also students are very, very friendly to each other. They help each other a lot. I think, yeah, they are quite sincere. And actually, we're probably coming to the end. I was going to tell you one funny thing about making those videos. One of the videos, like when you're making those videos, it's really, really hot because you have the lights and the camera, and you cannot open any windows or have any ventilation because it ruins the sound, okay? So, in fact, when I finished making those videos, I had to throw away the jacket that I was wearing because it was like so horrible, because it was so hot. But one funny thing was there was one video where I'm talking about the food of the future, and the food of the future, they say, is seaweed. You all know what seaweed is, yeah?
Yeah.
Green stuff in the sea. And did you know that, in fact, ice cream has lots of seaweed inside it? Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
Ice cream and toothpaste. Because seaweed is, it's not poisonous or anything, and it makes things thick. That's why they use it in ice cream. So I had to talk about seaweed, and I had to talk about ice cream, but under the camera, there was a big ice cream, like this, with a bowl of ice cream, and I had to pick it up and eat it. But every time I got to the moment when I had to pick up my ice cream, it was all like going liquid, and it was going all down my hand. So they had to keep on going out to a shop to buy more ice cream, and I had to do the video really, really quickly so that I could get to the end, pick up the ice cream, without all of the ice cream falling all over my hands. So that was like a bit of a strange moment. If you watch that video with the ice cream, then remember that it took a long time to get right.
Yeah. Why don't you film only in a short? Like, why do you have to use jacket?
And I think that's also because in different countries, also because I'm a teacher, so I have to look a bit serious. There's one video, I think, where I'm wearing a New York t-shirt. That was the only one. Oh, there's also one with a Gateway t-shirt. But yeah, I had to look serious, even though I'm not very serious. I had to pretend that I'm serious. Good, this has been fun. It's been really good fun. I'd like to thank you for the video that you made, and I will keep that. I've recorded it onto my computer, and I will keep that for a long time. And it was nice of you to think of me. I enjoyed all of your comments. I'm glad that you liked the book. I'm glad that your English is so brilliant. I think that's the combination of Gateway and particularly your teachers at school. Yeah, I think you should give a round of applause for your teacher. Maybe I should say teachers plural. Sorry, that of course there's more than one teacher. Thank you very much. I don't know if anybody has a last question or anything last to say.
Thank you for your books.
Any questions?
It would be. I would love to say that I'm going to come and visit you soon, but at the moment I'm so busy writing that I'm not really going out of my house. But I do definitely, next time I come to Kiev, I will be going to school 92.
See you later.
Goodbye.
Good luck with writing the books.
Thanks very much for everything.
Thank you for you too.
Good time.
Bye.